you need equipment, and things that you need are a computer that has your projection mapping software on it. You can also do projection mapping in other ways. You could do it, you can make masks in Premiere. You can do live mapping, which we're gonna do in Adobe After Effects. So you don't have to have projection mapping software. The software that we use here is called Millumin, but there are there are several other applications out there that do the same thing. I like Millumin because you could do your mapping and then you can export it as, like I was saying earlier, as a standalone just QuickTime file that you can then put on a media player and play in a gallery for like a month. And then you don't have to have the computer. So you can just check out a computer from the Gear Lab with the software, do your mapping, and this is what you have to do when you do it. And then you can, you know, like I said, get the file off and then return the equipment. If you're not a student anymore and you don't have access to the Gear Lab, you can rent Millumin. I think it's like $50 for a month or something. So if you have an exhibition somewhere and you want to map the video, then you don't have to pay, I think it's like $700 for the software. So you can rent it and then you don't have to buy the software. So anyway, they also used to have the free trial, also used to not have a watermark. You know, when you do free trials of stuff, a lot of times there's like a watermark. I don't know if any of you know that, but a watermark is just like, it's like their logo embedded. So anyway, they used to not have that, but I think they do now. So unfortunately, you used to just be able to get the free trial, do your mapping, and then that's it. But anyway, so computer, projector, power, super important. The projectors that we have, several of them are short throw projectors. And these things have been through, we treat these things like artistry tools, but they still are functioning pretty well. So we use short throw projectors, and what that means is that it has a wide angle lens, and the wide angle lens allows it to project large in shorter amounts of spaces. So if this had, it doesn't. If this had a short throw lens on it, the projector could probably be like here and have the same size projection. So the cool thing about these is that when we're working with projection in public spaces or in weird spaces, like I did a projection in a storefront window once and I had like 5 feet of space, then you can use these to get a bigger projection surface image in a shorter amount of space. Something important to remember, because these do project really big, and it's really like, it's kind of cool to be like, whoa, I can project like that big. But the bigger it is, the less bright it's going to be. So that's something else that you have to think about with projectors is the brightness of the projector. So we wouldn't be able to take this projector and do like what Krzysztof Wuczko does. Well, the inside one we'd probably be able to do. But which one did we look at? Can't remember what other one we looked at. But anyway, we can't project like on a big building outside with a projector that has this brightness. It's not bright enough. So the projectors that I use are like, for bigger buildings, are at least like 5 times as bright as this. So, but these work great for indoor applications. And I used these types for a really long time. So I'm going to plug this in. Extension cord. A lot of times I will put a surge protector on here. So if there's any surge in electricity, then it won't harm the projector or the computer. But it's okay that we're not. So, and I'm just turning the projector on. I think I'll turn it this way so I don't blind you. basically what I'm doing today is I'm gonna have two projections. I'm gonna be using this one so you can see what I'm doing on my computer. And then I'm gonna be using this one, I'm just gonna project it over here so you can see what I'm doing with the mapping. So, let's turn off all the lights. And I need to adjust my okay. If you have any questions, just interrupt me. So, HDMI cable. So you have to hook up the projector to your computer somehow. You guys probably already know all this stuff, but maybe not. Over the years, these things have evolved. So there's all different types of cables that you can use to hook up a projector and a computer. I have all of them in my office, all this outdated cable hookup. So, but basically HDMI is the standard now. The difference between these and other ones is the resolution capability. So HDMI, it can support high definition and sound. Other cables, like VGA cables, some of them can do HD, but a lot of times they're lower resolution. So anyway, I need to find the input, the output, I guess that would be input. HDMI, of course on Macs we need our adapters. I'm totally gonna trip over this, I know it. Okay, so basically you're looking at my laptop or my desktop here soon, once I get that set up. Okay, well you're looking at, both of these are my desktop right now. Okay, so when you so basically when you plug in a projector into your computer, a lot of times by default it's going to be mirroring your screen. And so over here in the projector, it's mirroring exactly what I have on my desktop. And so when we're projection mapping, we want to be able to control the shape of the video, the projection, while we are working in the software at the same time. That's really like the power of projection mapping software, is you can do it live. And so we want to be able to see our computer screen and have our projector be an additional display. And so in order to do that, I'm going to go to System Preferences, and I'm going to go to Displays. And under Arrangement, now I can see that I'm mirroring my displays. And I'm just going to uncheck this. And this is where it gets more challenging for me. But, okay. Okay, so basically what I just did, or what we're looking at, is we have this display. We have 3 displays right now. We have this one, which is my laptop. It has the highest resolution, which is why it's the biggest. We have this one, which is the classroom projector. And we have this one, which is our short throw projector, and which is we're going to be treating as our external display. This white bar right here changes which one you want to be your main like desktop display. So if I wanted to bring it, like if you can see my laptop right now, I can't see my desktop. So right now I'm telling it that my laptop display is an external display and it's not mirroring my desktop. So if I wanted to change that back, I could move this white bar back here. And now that's being treated as an external display, and I have my desktop back on my computer, or on my laptop. But for our purposes today, I want you all to see what I'm doing. You're going to just have your laptop and one projector. You don't have to do all this fancy stuff when you do it. Okay, so I'm good in here. And what do I want to talk about? So real quick, before I get into Millumin, you can see that the brightness of this projector isn't as bright as this one, right? So right off the bat, we can tell that we're losing some brightness. If we went closer or projected on a brighter surface, which this is all pretty bright, the whiteboard is a little bit reflective, so it's actually reflecting some of that light, so it's not as bright, whereas this projection screen is made to absorb the light. And so basically, you kind of have to play around with this in terms of like making sure that it's bright enough for your audience to be able to see your content. Because if it's not bright enough, nobody can see it, then what's the point, right? So on here, I can also zoom. There's a zoom feature on here. There's also focus on here, so I can see it's out of focus. So you want to make sure that it's in focus. I've done like times where I'm like, why is my video out of focus? Well, sometimes because I'm not wearing my glasses. And then, but other times I'm like, that's so strange. Did I put like a Gaussian blur on it or something? No, it's because my projector's out of focus. So there's kind of like different pieces to this puzzle that you kind of have to make sure everything is like working the way you want it to. There's also a menu in your projector that allows you to do different things. Some minimal edits in here, like brightness and contrast. I wouldn't really mess around with this a lot. If the projector seems really dark, then maybe go check this and make sure the brightness is up enough. But usually I try to like do everything in the computer and not mess around with the projector too much. So I'm just gonna turn that off. Oh, there we did. Okay. So I'm just gonna set this up so I can see, so I'm projecting on basically a corner. So I have different planes that I'm projecting on here. Okay. So I'm going to open up Millumin. I apologize for my crazy desktop. And I'm going to create a new project. So this is what it looks like when we first open it. By default, there's a dashboard down here. And the cool thing about the dashboard is that you could put different media in here. So I could have a different video in each one of these and kind of pick and choose which one I want to play. And I guess something that is important to know about this software is like, basically the software was designed for like, originally like DJs. So when a DJ's at a club and they're spinning records like cool DJs do, a lot of times they'll have like a video up. And so while they're mixing, or while they're spinning, or whatever you call it, they would use software like this to change the imagery too. So basically, if you think about this kind of like a DJ, like if you were a DJ and you had all this like different media in here, you could kind of pick and choose and mix and match what you want to be projected as your display. So that's what that's one option in Millumin. But I always work in the timeline, and in order to add that, I'm just going to hit this plus timeline. And I do that because I'm used to working like with Premiere and After Effects, and I like having control of the project for a period of time, like over a period of time. And so this way of working in Millumin allows us to have layers down here and a timeline. So this looks a little bit like Premiere in that sense. We have our viewer here, and then if I click that button, then this is our library, and this is where we're going to store our media. And so I'm just going to say that again because for some reason Millumin likes to hide that over here, and I feel like I always forget like where it's at. So if you don't know where to put your media, you can click this arrow and you can drag and drop it in there. And I'll show you kind of why that's important in a sec. I always just search for weird videos that are already on my computer. Let's see what this is. Okay, so here's a video. And so I just found it in my Finder. And I'm going to click and drag it into Millumin. And so if I click and drag it, oops. Okay, it doesn't let me drop it on the canvas. It also doesn't let me drop it, or maybe it does. No, it doesn't let me drop it in the timeline either. So in Premiere, it lets you do that. So that's something important to remember. And then basically, the only place it lets me do that, for some reason I can't click and drag. There we go. Is in the library. So I'll just drag and drop it in there. And now I have my media in Millumin. And I'm going to click and drag it into my timeline. And so why do you think the picture is smaller than the canvas? Anybody? Anybody?
It's because like the resolution size sits at
Yes. Good job. Yeah, so the resolution is smaller than our our canvas resolution. And so we can do one of two things. We can click on this and we can scale it up to fit. But something that we want to check is that our resolution in our canvas is matching the resolution in our projector. So I'm going to hit output here. And this is where I tell 1680 by 1050, I don't know what that is. This is where I tell Millumin what projector I want to be my output. And so if I click on this, I have several options. No display. The Xtron is our classroom projector. This is my laptop. The BenQ is my projector. So I can see that the resolution of the projector in here says 1280 by 800. So I'm going to choose that. Now I can see that over there, but I'm also going to change the size of my canvas to match the resolution of my projector. So 1280 by, what was it? 800. Oh, it's right there too. Okay. And then I'm gonna hit OK. And so now I have a true resolution match between my canvas and my projector, which is important. And so now I can scale this, and of course, you all know that when we scale up low resolution images, they'll lose quality, right? But it's kind of like you kind of pick and choose, you know, like what looks good and what doesn't. And so if it looks okay for your purposes, I don't care if it's like a little bit pixelated. But if you are trying to create something that is super crisp and cinematic, then obviously you want to make sure that you have, you know, the highest resolution.
We in America are immigrants, or is it?
And there's audio in there. So I'm actually going to turn the audio off of this layer or this clip. Audio volume. There we go. Okay. So, all right. So by default, this timeline is 3 minutes long. And so you can go in and you can change that. Like let's say your project is only 90 seconds and you want your timeline to match that. You can go to Setup and you can change the duration here to 1 minute 30 seconds. And I'm gonna leave it at 3 minutes, but and these are your frames, so you can get pretty precise. Another thing you can do that's pretty cool, and I wonder if I can show you that. So I can't see the end of it right now. Actually, I'll just change this just to make it 10 minutes for a sec. Oh, geez, that's a long video. Okay, now I can see the end of my video. Okay, so let's say that's my original video, it ends there, but I still have extra space in my timeline. I can click on the end of my clip in my timeline and drag it to the right, and that will automatically loop my video. You can do that. There are certain scenarios that you would do that if you had like lots of layers and you needed one layer just loop and loop and loop for the entire duration. If you just have one clip like I have here, I want my timeline to match the length of my video because if it loops, I don't know like where it's gonna loop exactly within the video. So let's say, I'm just gonna roll over here, 10 minutes, 13 seconds is the length of my video. So I'm gonna make this 10 minutes, 13 seconds. And now at the end of my video, if I play it, it will automatically loop to the beginning. So it automatically loops it anyway, but do you see the difference? Like you can loop it in the layer, but the whole timeline loops too. Okay, so let's say I want this to just fit like on the right wall here. And so basically, I can do all sorts of things to like manipulate this image to make it relate to the architecture. I already showed you like this little tool right here is the scale tool. So this just keeps it, you know, like makes it larger or smaller. You can also see the position over here changing. So you can change the position and the scale over here in your layer controls. And you can also change the opacity. So if you have multiple layers of videos, you can change the opacity and blend them together. There's also blend modes in Millumin too, right here. There's not as many as there are in Premiere or After Effects, but you do have some options in here. I would say try to do most of your special effects or editing or whatever in Premiere and not in Millumin, and used Millumin just for manipulating the image. Just because it has to work hard and sometimes it likes to crash. So this tool up here is your corner pin. And so this is really cool. It allows you to push the perspective of your video. And so now I can do this in real time while it's playing even. And so now you can see, like, hopefully you can see like the power of that. Before you were able to do that, you had to project it, edit it in whatever editing software you're using, render it, then play it. It was just like ridiculous what it used to be like. It's also like, you know, I used to have to walk 10 miles to school, but I was insane in grad school. I literally, every time I had to do like, when I first started working with projection mapping, like more than 10 years ago, if I wanted to move this like here, I would do that. And then I would have to drive to a lab on campus, render it, because I didn't have the software, and then drive back to my studio and then project it. And then I'd be like, oh crap. And then I want it like that. Then I have to drive back to the studio or to the lab. It was insane. But anyway, so that's a really cool way to, you know, make it fit on a certain plane. So you could push that, you know, like maybe you want it over here instead. So we can do that too. Obviously, you are limited. You can see on my canvas here that I'm going off of my canvas. And so obviously you're going to be limited by the size of your projection, right? So now we have that fitting just like that. If we wanted to, push the dimensions to have it project on both surfaces. Well, actually, let's say like I want it on both surfaces. Maybe I want it mirrored or something. I'm going to add another layer down here. Now I have 2 layers. I'm going to bring in the same video.
Out the east they came, as the migration fever
Turn
spread.
down the volume. But now I can do this over here. And like I said, I want it mirrored. So I'm going to click on my layer. And this is kind of important. So like I said, you can do things to your clip. You can scale it, position it, change the blend mode, stuff like that. But there's different options for when you're active on your clip versus when you're active on your layer. And so that's just kind of important to remember, that if you are looking for something like, let's say you're like, where's my blend mode or my scale option over here? When I click on the clip itself, it actually gives me options for just that media, because I might have more than one clip on a layer. And so you can change the speed of it in here. You can add some different effects, the volume. But other things, if I click on the actual layer, that's where I can find my blend mode, my opacity, and things like that. So that's just important to remember. So what were we doing here? Oh, I was going to add an effect to it. So let's do, down here if I scroll, this is kind of like my, this panel is like my effects controls in Premiere. So this is where I can do different things to my layers and my clips. And if I go to effects and hit plus, there's all sorts of different effects. Look, there's like glitches, fake glitches. But if I hit mirror, they're also different parts of the, what did I do to make them in different parts? I hit my 30-minute mark. Okay. Let's But this one, we want to actually, we need to divide it into more sections, right? So we have more options, because if we want it to fit just the ceiling, we have to actually bend it. And so that is like where kind of the power of like projection mapping comes in, is that you can warp the image to fit the architecture, to make it feel like it's fitting the architecture. It looks weird in your canvas, right? This looks weird, but it looks good up there. So that's the important thing. So let's bring this back down here, and I'm going to go down to my mapping options. Ooh, the slice editor is really cool too, but I'm gonna do warping for now before I get to that. So if I click warping, then it divides my image into as many sections as I want it to. I don't need it that many sections, so I'm actually, let's see. I think just that many is good. But you can see that you can divide it into like a lot, depending on what you need. So I'm gonna make it into 2, and let's see what I can do here. If I can corner pin this. Yes, sir, I can. So basically, I'm editing it while I'm watching it here to make sure that visually it is appearing the way I want it to. It still is lagging behind. That's strange.
Is it because you changed the end point on the first layer?
Did I?
Did you change it to 10 minutes and 13 seconds?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of dyslexic, so I'm like really bad with numbers.
I didn't know if that would be the reason why. But it looks like it's fun.
Here it looks okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. Huh. Whatever. Okay. So, what do I want to do this? I'm going to flip it. So, it's mirroring. Oh, I wonder if maybe my mask was going to get messed up then, but let's just try it. So if I add an effect and let's see. Well, I don't know where that, I can't remember where that is. Anyway, I was going to flip it to make it look kind of more kaleidoscopy, but I'll just leave it like that for now. So anyway, so you can see how it looks. I mean, on the canvas, it's starting to look kind of three-dimensional, right? So it's kind of like drawing. That's what I compare it to, because like if you remember in your drawing classes when you're doing 1 and 2 point perspective, you have to think about it that way, right? Because really, like you're translating a 2-dimensional image onto a 3-dimensional surface, and so you are like you're using 1 and 2 point perspective to do that in your canvas, and then it looks like it's more natural over here. And I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I might clean that up a little bit. Any questions so far? Okay, so what else can I show you? Oh, okay, we'll do. I'm going to open this up a little bit so I can see all my layers, and I'm just going to get rid of these. Add a new one. Oh, look at that.
Many are rejected.
So that kept the mapping because the layer is mapped. So I'm actually going to, I just want to bring in just a, I can actually go over here and uncheck mapping. I guess I can just do that. But I think instead, I'm going to delete. I'm just highlighting these and deleting them, hitting the delete key. So I'm going to add a new layer, and let's see. Okay, perfect. So I just have the regular old image again. I can zoom in and out of my canvas with this little button right here. I can also use my trackpad with 2 fingers and go in and out. So one thing I wanted to show you was the slice editor, and I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger and go over here to my mapping and choose the slice editor. And so if I add slices to it, let's say I want it split into 3, it will split my image into 3 pieces that I can then control separately.
Across the sea.
And so now I have 1 video instead of 3 that I can, if I want to, map each one of these ones in different ways. I can do that. So then it's like one more seamless. Usually I would be standing up and like going over there and looking at it. So from your angle, it might not look as good as from over here. I think they're overlapping a little here. And then I have this girl over here. She's sad because she's not with everybody else. Anyway, so that's one way to split it up and make it fit, like make one video fit in different ways. Another thing that I wanted to show you, when you...
Then, immigration gateways like Ellis Island and examination immigration officials.
It's like not letting me control my volume in here. Here, I'll do it here. Where's my mouse? There we go. Okay, no, it's not. All right, anyway, so if I go back to warping, I can also choose Bezier mode. And what that does is it gives me little Bezier handles. So if I do that here, I can make it more organic, the shape. So if I am projecting onto something that is a more organic shape, then I can use these Bezier handles to make it fit. Or just warp it if I wanted it to. Okay. Reset warping, turn off warping, because there's one more thing I wanted to show you. Does anybody have any questions right now? No questions? No questions? Okay, so that is mapping. Let's just say we want to make it a certain shape, and we use masks for that. Now we can do that in Premiere too, but you can't do it live in Premiere. So this button right here is, so this is like a pen tool. And so it'll make points on your canvas to create a mask. Now remember, so when we're looking at this, wherever we're projecting, or wherever we have black on our canvas, it looks like there's no video, right? And so if we turned up the brightness, I'll just do it actually. Nope. Where's my menu? Menu. Okay, let's say I'm like, oh, I want this brighter, and so I go in the projector and I turn up the brightness. Just turn it up a lot. So now I'm starting to see the dreaded line of the projector. And so basically, this is one reason why you shouldn't bump your brightness in the projector, but basically the illusion is broken if we can see the original projection rectangle, right? So you kind of have to play around with like getting it bright enough to you know, to be able to see your image while also, you know, getting that background to disappear. So now that I'm bringing that brightness down, that background disappears. Does that make sense? Okay. Guys hanging in there? Okay. It's a little, apologize. Sit. Okay, so I just made this mask in here. I can go back and I can edit it. So let's say I just want the video to be an outline and I don't want to see the main content. I can just go ahead and make this mask like that. And I can go into my layer options. And I have some options for my mask. Let me make sure I'm on that. So I can I can change the opacity of the mask. I can feather the mask. Which feathering sometimes will give it like a three-dimensional look, like if you think about like in drawing, like shading with drawing. And I can scale it here. I can also choose to hide pixels or show pixels, and then I also have the option to invert it. So a lot of times I will work with an inversion if I'm trying to get a positive shape, if that makes sense. So let me get rid of that mask. Just hit minus right here. I can also add a mask over here. So I'm gonna add a circle mask. So now I have a circle, and if I invert it, then it appears to just be a circle. You can also animate masks. I'm not gonna really get into that, but you can keyframe in here. And so you can keyframe your masks, you can keyframe your mapping. So if you actually want like the mapping to change over time, you can do that with keyframes. And I think that if you all don't have any other questions about this, I'm going to show you how to export, save and export. All good? So let's say that I'm having an exhibition. I want my video in a circle on the wall over there. I just checked this out from the Gear Lab, this computer and projector. I have my projector set up exactly where I want it to go. And I want to save this and put it on a media player. I can do that by going, well, first of all, you should be saving it, and then you can just do File, Save, or Save As. And then if you want to export it, you can go to Timeline, and then you can do Render Timeline to File. And it gives you some options. ProRes is fine. H.264 is good too. They're all good right there. And then save. Oh, this is really long. we're not gonna wait for that. But basically what this is doing is exporting it to a QuickTime file, and that we can just then play on anything, any device that plays QuickTime files. Another thing to remember, for our purposes, this is just a temporary thing. So we're gonna be working with our groups, and we're gonna pick a place to project, and we need to get the projector in a spot where we can work on it and then get it back in that spot. So if you are doing like really precise mapping, you might have to, next time you set up the projector, do some edits to it, because it is like nearly impossible. It's challenging to get the projector back in the right spot exactly. If you are doing something like in a gallery, like for an exhibition or something, then I always install projectors like from a ceiling using a projector mount, and that way, this, like it won't move. Ideally, sometimes it moves. It depends. But we have some pretty good projector mounts for our gallery. One thing that happens in our gallery is like the ceiling shakes. So sometimes if you see a projected piece in the gallery and it's like shaking a little bit, that's because the ceiling shakes. I don't know, it's because of the HVAC or whatever. But anyway, so